Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 19. In this episode, I speak with my very good friend, Tyler Cope. Tyler is a great friend of mine. We grew up together in Canton, Illinois, and throughout the years, our relationship has actually just gotten stronger and stronger as we both moved to different cities, had different experiences, and he's just a really deep dude. Him and I constantly am having just great conversations about life, spirituality, things we read, philosophy, and I was really excited to have him on the show. He's been a very great supporter of the podcast and listening to every episode, so it was amazing and an honor to have him on here. And the book of the episode, I'm going to go a little different direction this time. It's called Thinking Physics by Lewis Carroll Epstein. Usually I'm talking about philosophy books or spirituality or something artsy, but this is a great book that Tyler actually inspired me to get because he got it. He's like, man, you really need to get this, check it out. So I did, and whether you're great at math and physics and all that doesn't matter because it's really meant to work your brain and to challenge your brain. And it's broken up in all these different sections of physics, and there's just, you can literally take a problem a day or every couple days and read it, think about it, and then look up the answer. And usually I don't get the answer right, but once in a while I do. But it's really meant just to get your brain working and just widen your perspective and strengthen those muscles. So Thinking Physics by Lewis Carroll Epstein. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Tyler.
Tyler Cope, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
What's happening, man?
What's happening? Well, I pretty much knew and expected to see some plants, but man, like seeing it now, like in front of me here, you got a few plants, sir.
I do, and it normally looks like this in this corner, but I'm flexing a little bit because I knew I was going to be on the Sam Dever Podcast, so I moved a few things over and rearranged some things.
It's probably like with me with my books. I want to like show it.
Right. I mean, I didn't rent the plants or anything, but like I knew I was going to be filmed, so.
Well, so let's go into that, man. So how long is it now that you've been into plants?
So like, I had messed with some plants back at the house in Lafayette. I had a garden. I had a flower garden and some vegetable garden and some landscaping that I did with my mom when I moved in there. And had a couple plants, but it wasn't really like, it didn't look like this. This kind of happened. I got 4 plants to cover my windows. And no, I had 1 plant previously that I got about a year ago. And then this spring, I got 4 plants to cover my windows. And from there, I just started picking up a couple more and then, ended up with some and it just grew, right? So I was trying to figure out how I was going to take care of all these plants. And so I was like, I got to learn everything I can learn, right? Like that's the way to do it. And I went from like knowing nothing to like getting pretty knowledgeable and hanging out at the plant shop and it turned into like a part-time gig. And so I'm working at the plant shop and I'm not collecting plants, but it would appear as though I am, I'm just enjoying plants.
What is it about it that you like? I mean, obviously aesthetically it looks cool, but is there a certain energy that it brings, a calmness maybe?
Yeah, it definitely, I think once you figure, at first it wasn't very calm trying to figure out the watering routine. Cause like I said, I kind of went from like 0 to 60 and had to learn things very quick. But like, yeah, I definitely think there's a calming, there's kind of just a calming nature to being around plants, and no pun. And I think that if we get down to it, there's a sacred spirit inside the plants, right? And it's the same as the spirit that's inside us. And so we are connecting with them regardless, I think, of whether we're aware of it or not. And so bringing them into our space sometimes can bring on that awareness. And kind of bridge that connection.
Yeah, and I realized talking to you, like, that's maintenance behind you, man. You know what I mean? Like, if you got like one plant or two plants, you can handle it. But like, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, you're responsible for a lot of plants. Like, you can't really slack too much on skipping days watering them and shit, right? Like,
Well, so there's a lot of plants, but it's really not as much work as you think. It's like watering once a week, and you're just going around and touching the soil. I don't really track the days. I just touch the soil, and when it needs water, you water it, and that's it. It's just kind of like sweeping the floor, washing the dishes. It just becomes a part of living in your environment. So it doesn't feel like too much.
do they have names?
I mean, they have like
Species
common names. Yeah, but no,
But you don't personally name them.
No, I don't.
What tea are you drinking?
This is Yogi Sweet Ginger Citrus Turmeric Vitality. So, that's the wrong side.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I got a ginger turmeric going myself. And if you notice, well, first of all, shout out to you and to everyone watching and listening. If you've seen this salt lamp, this was given to me by this man here, along with this candle burning right now, which is phenomenal. And I also have the other set in the other room you gave me. Dude, really, you were totally right on this, bringing a vibe to the room, for sure.
Yeah, I think lighting's important, and smells are important, and I kind of see my place as somewhere pleasurable to be, and so I work on that, and try to incorporate smells and lighting and aesthetics that are pleasing.
Yeah, man. And, I mean, dude, we were talking in the pre-show room. I mean, this conversation could probably go 1,000 different ways. And it's one thing I really appreciate about our relationship over the years, and even recently this past year, is every time I talk, I feel like it's a podcast, like when we're on the phone. We'll start talking about one thing, and then next thing you know, we're like an hour and a half in talking about the deepest forms of spirituality in present moments. And that's
right.
dope, man. That's you've been an amazing comrade over these years as navigating life. And if I had to describe our relationship, I guess on the spot as I talk it out, it's like, you're one of those people, as am I, where if we see a huge crowd of people over here, you and I were kind of the ones in our own ways to be like, well, what's over here?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that we just go to what's interesting, and sometimes there's other people there, and sometimes it's just us. But yeah, and it's interesting. Like, yeah, you're right. I didn't really think about that as all of our conversations, but you and I have been talking for I think over a decade, just around a decade, like consistently. Mm-hmm. It's pretty wild to think about, man. Like, very few people know me quite like you. Yeah,
you're kind of a man of mystery, man. You're a man of mystery, and that's good. And that's why, like, people ask me, what's Ty doing? I'm like, Ty's good. I'm like, Ty's real good. Like, he's chilling. He's with plants. He's doing his thing. I think about it, man. I think it was around junior year of college is when we really connected strong. And then that senior year, when I went to Lafayette back in the SJD TV days.
Man. Stuff. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And ever since then, it's been a ride. It's been a ride with you, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I just love having people in my life where it's just an open canvas. You know what I mean? It's like we're just trying to. We know our time is short here, and I feel like you and I especially, like, we'll have our own individual experiences, then we'll share them with each other. Like, yo, this happened to me. It was crazy. Have you ever experienced this? And we talk about it. And I think that's dope, instead of just being on autopilot being numbed by society and never really, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think that, I've just had the pleasure of getting to talk to you about some things that I've paused and thought about, completely random that really otherwise I would have just kept as a thought. But you and I have turned that into conversations, and then like we'll have a conversation weeks or months down the road that goes back to that. It turns into like a series of conversations, so yeah, man.
Well,
Yeah.
what's dope about it now that now it's unraveling. It's like a tennis match, man. And like, I'll tell you about this book. Boom, served to you. And then you're like, yo, dude, you need to read this book. Boom, served back to me. And I'm like, dude, that's so dope, man, to have people. I like what we're exchanging books. We're sending books to each other. We're extending different interviews of people. And, it's so stimulating to have that, And I know both of us have had our own year of growth, to say the least, this past year and previous years. But I was wondering maybe we could start, maybe you telling me and us a little bit about your transformation, maybe from a spiritual perspective, because I know you've gotten more into meditation, reading, plants, things of that nature. So is there anything you can maybe in a nutshell describe your journey over these past 12 months?
Over the past 12 months. So I think I've been kind of on a journey of trying to learn about things that people are doing that's bringing quality to their lives. And then I'm trying to practice that and incorporate it into my life. I think for I had somewhat of a hard-headed or immature mindset for a long time. Like I could come up with the formula to my own like peace or my own, I don't know, like I could figure it out. And it kind of took some time to pause and look around me and think, why don't I utilize some of the things that other people are doing, the things that are right in front of us, things like meditation, things like reading, things like, you and I are big fans of Naval, right? So finding people that inspire us and then seeking out more information from them. And so it's just been this journey of trying to make each day a little bit better by practicing some really simple things and seeing what works and what doesn't, and what works I try to keep and what doesn't work. Maybe I toss to the side and we'll try later, or maybe not at all, but it's really just about learning and trying to grow and trying different things to do that,
Yeah, where did I read? It was in, I'm reading The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. Really good book. It's not the book of the episode yet because I'm not done with it, but I'm pretty blown away by it. It's really good. And he talks about the grass is greener on the other side theory, which really isn't theory, it's a reality, where nothing's ever good enough. Like as soon as you do get that mate one day, well, I think I can do better, or I think the mate would be better if I had this, or you get that job finally, well, I can do better. And I don't think it's to be confused with wanting to better your situation sometimes, but you do get to a point where you realize, at least I have, where this is what he says, it doesn't end. You're constantly going to be, if you get caught in that race, you're going to be thinking that way till the day you die. And me personally, going off some of the things you just said, these tools and these things, they've taught me to appreciate what is in front of me and what is my reality, not what I want my reality to be and what I think my reality is, but being satisfied and being happy and enjoying these moments. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. I forget what I was listening to, but it was a podcast I think recently that was talking about that idea that we always are trying to get a little bit more. Once we get something, we start looking for more, and we almost have to reverse engineer that out of us. We have to deprogram that out of us, because that drive and that nature is something that our ancestors would have had in order to survive, in order to sustain over time. now we live in a time of excess. We don't need that. We don't need to do that anymore. You know, we don't need to constantly gather and then figure out where we can get more and find another place to store that. It's just not necessary, but that's still kind of ingrained maybe in who we are as humans, as animals. And so I think that's a real challenge for us, because it's just something that we can know. Everybody knows the saying that the grass is greener, right? We're all aware of that trap, but we're always kind of either falling into it or catching ourselves from falling into it. But it's always kind of there waiting on us. It's interesting.
Yeah. And it's even now, I mean, even now I realize, and as you know too, meditation and staying present takes work. Like, it's not like you meditate one time, or you read these things in a book one time. Maybe some people do, more power to them if they automatically. I think DeMello even says that. DeMello says, like, some people may hear what I say one time and get it and totally change their life, and some people may hear it 1,000 times and never get it. But I realize, like, I'll look at, like, man, like, and I think it's Eckhart Tolle, or Tolle, however you pronounce his name, where he says, being aware that you're not present is still being present. And I've had a lot of those moments where I'll be in a situation, I'm like, hey, I'm not really mentally here right now. let me adjust. Let me soak this in. You know, It's one thing I would say is a common theme that we've been talking about for a long time now is the present moment is really all we have. There's really nothing else. The past and the future, yes, you should prepare for the future wisely in some regards, but at the same time, know that it's not guaranteed, and that it's not this. It's not here, not now.
Yo, and I can get with that. And I definitely have experience with being in the present, right? But then I'm like, all right, I was in the present, and I step back out into that mindset of looking behind me or looking in front of me. You know, it's like, good job, Ty. Like, you were in the present, but like that living in the present, man. Yeah, absolutely. I think that takes a lot of practice and a lot of intention behind directing our thoughts and our actions towards that. But it continues to evade me, man. Living in the present, I'm always getting tripped up, looking in front of me, looking behind me. It's tough, man.
Well, dude, talking to you too now, I realize another beautiful thing I've taken from you over the years is I feel you're a man of, how do I word this? You're a man of simplicity, but very good simplistic taste. Like, you know, plants, for example, or I think you've taught me to enjoy really simple things. You know, we've kind of been on the same page, you know, with materialism and that type of thing, like how do we view the world in some regards. But it's really life. I'm learning, man, some of the simplest things are really the greatest joys that we can even, you know, no matter how much money you had, no matter how much access to whatever you have, something so simple can trump all that, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we should be going after the things we can get our hands on, right? And I guess when I say get our hands on, it makes it a little possessive, but like, if we're desiring things, they should be things that we can reach out and obtain with a lot of suffering to get there, with a lot of stress to get there. And so I think that I've kind of found a way to do that, right? The best way to aid to the habit of plants is to work at a plant shop. And so we find ways to get the stuff we desire. And yeah, I try to stay away from like looking beyond what's around me.
Yeah, because then you look back. I mean, shit, I've done it. Like, I'll look back 5 years ago on something, or 10 years ago, and like, man, that was a really cool situation I was in, but was I really present for that? Did I really enjoy that? Did I really make the best use of that? Or was I thinking about where I needed to be in some future that didn't exist? And that's what I love about Naval, is I feel he's the perfect hybrid of, look, this dimension takes money and you need money to survive. So you should take care of that so you don't have to worry about it. But after you hit a certain point, it doesn't matter. it doesn't matter because you're going to be lights out. You're going to check out. But the society in this world, it's just money, 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 money. Like every aspect of life, it's about getting, when we're going through high school, it's like, you got to get to college so you can get a good job. Then you get to college, got to get the degree so you can get the job. You get the job. Well, this one's okay, but it's not good enough. You got to get a better paying job, and then it's like, it's just a constant going up the thing. And I'm not saying like, that's how it's set up, but I personally don't, or never have seen like dedicating my whole life to that race. It just doesn't, I don't know. For me personally, it doesn't fulfill me,
Well, I think that I am not in this group. I wish I could claim to be, but a lot of people our age, and especially people younger than us, are realizing that, possibly a better way to do that is to find ways to generate money themselves. I do think that the days of getting into a company and just working hard and grinding and staying in it for 4 years or whatever, that's long over, right? And you can generate money, but the kind of financial freedom Naval talks about, he talks about we have to find a way. You have to find a way to generate money that's not based on hours worked, right? You're not trading time for money, because in that system, you're never going to accumulate anything. You'll always just be trading everything you get for your time to get it. And I think more people are realizing that and coming up with creative and innovative ways to generate their own money based on their interests, based on the things that they love and that they're already doing. So it's really exciting, and we all have that opportunity to kind of find our niche and to make our passions actually generate income for us. The rat race, man. The rat race is outdated, I think, but I'm stuck in it.
Yeah. But it's like, but at the same time too, here's the thing too. It's, someone once said to me, you don't want to be that 70-year-old Walmart greeter. But then after like doing all this work and reading and just looking inward, it's like, well, maybe that may not be an ideal situation, but what if I am? What if I am a 70-year-old Walmart greeter? And what if I'm the happiest, most positive 70-year-old Walmart greeter you ever met? Maybe some 70-year-olds that work at Walmart absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's funny that people say stuff like that. That doesn't sound too bad to me. They just greet
just
people.
Say hi.
Peeps, good morning. I'd kind of like that.
Well, I think too, it's all perspective too, and attitude. A lot of things are attitude, and I know I've had attitude adjustments with myself, like back in the day, which 10 plus years ago. It's like, oh man, I don't want to work for anyone, and it's like, I just want to keep creating stuff, blah, blah, blah. But then, reality hits you and you do fall into maybe a line of work. Like, would it be your number one choice if you got to choose anything? Probably not, but it's something that you do enjoy and can be good at and, live an enjoyable life with. I mean, there is a balance to it all. I guess I'm just talking out loud. It's not always in a black and white situation. Like, there are shades of gray to be a part of maybe the rat race a little bit, but then also having the attitude to be not absorbed by it completely. Like you see it for what it is and you're able to step outside of that at the end of the day,
Right. Yeah, and I think the rat race is more of a mindset, right, than a job anyways. Like, I think that's the whole thing with it is not really what you're doing, but what's driving you. I think that's the more significant part of the rat race, because we've all got to work and we're all going to have bosses, and the way to get more money is to get promoted, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, and that system is effective to some degree, right? We still use it, but it's when we get caught in that mindset. I've got caught in that, I just went and tried to go for a promotion, and I was really digging into it, and even while it was happening, I felt myself just getting wrapped up in that mindset, and I was full blown rat racing in my mind, and Yeah, I think that's the tricky part to navigate.
Yeah. And, well, not exactly the same. Well, it's actually a different realm, but shifting to a different lifestyle rather. You definitely are pretty knowledgeable in terms of like the homeless community and situations. And that's one thing I definitely wanted to get your perspective on. You know, 'cause especially here in like Los Angeles, it's a major, major thing. But through talking with you and, you know, doing more research, you realize that, wow, it's actually a lot easier to become homeless than a lot of people think. And, again, you shouldn't be really judgmental when you see it, because it's like you have no idea what that person went through. And I was just wondering if you could just give us some perspective on how you view it all, and maybe a different side people may not understand or have heard.
It's a really really broad topic. Yeah, I actually had the chance to. I went through LA in April, May, something like that, and went through Skid Row. And I had been there in 2015, so about 5-6 years later, and I couldn't believe it had even grown so much since the last time I had been through there. But I can't really. There's patterns nationwide, but I can really only kind of speak about my experience in Denver with what's happening here. And if you're living in a city and hearing this somewhere else, it probably sounds similar. But there's just what seems like an ever growing population of people that can't find housing, and it's just getting harder and harder in cities because the rent is going up absorbently, and the jobs aren't they're just not paying the rent anymore. And so the days of just go out and get a job, work full time, that doesn't cut it in a lot of cities. I mean, you're in LA, that doesn't cut
Nope.
it. I mean, and so to just think it's as simple as people should work harder or get a job or get 2 jobs and generate more money and get rent, that's unfortunately just it's really incorrect. It's getting impossible for low-income people to live in cities. And so a lot of the people that we're seeing on the streets aren't the same types, you could say, of people experiencing homeless that we've seen decades ago. We're seeing a lot more people that are maybe in their 50s, older age, that are experiencing homelessness for the first time in their life. They've been housed their whole life, but after a series of hardships and increased rent prices, they just could no longer pay. And I think Denver has I want to say the reported homeless population is around like 4,000 to 5,000, but the estimated population is probably a lot closer to 8,000 to 10,000, maybe even more. I'm certainly not an expert on this, but I do have some experience with it.
What do you?
So don't quote me on those numbers.
Right. What do you think? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you don't know, but like, what are reasonable solutions? Like, what are some things that cities can do or communities can do, you think, to help this issue?
They can follow. Well, there's a few things that are working really well. There's an organization in Oakland called Bay Area Community Services, and they're doing a lot of great things in Oakland. In period, they're doing great things. They're the city's purchasing old buildings, hotels and motels, and apartment buildings, and converting those into permanent housing for people that were experiencing homelessness. And they had been doing that for a while. When COVID came, the federal government got involved and started putting programs in cities that basically did that. They leased out hotels, and they put them up as temporary emergency homeless shelters. And they had a program for people that are high risk of either developing COVID or experiencing severe symptoms. They would qualify for this program as kind of like a way to quarantine them, to keep them safe during, back in 2020 when things were real wild and nobody knew what was going on. And that's kind of when all of this started. But what we're seeing and what other cities are seeing is that this model works, using these buildings that might be underused or, the other reality is, maybe some cities have too many hotels. Maybe it would be better to repurpose them as shelters. That could be a bigger need than another hotel in the business district. So cities are starting to ask those questions and find ways to get the money to either purchase or lease those properties and turn them into housing, because we're never going to see people just go from the streets to back into an apartment and working without new interventions and without creating places for them to live, because the rent has just gotten outrageous in cities. And it's a problem that's going to compound and get worse unless more intervention is done.
Yeah, I know Denver rent definitely has gone up, I'm sure.
Yeah, it has, but I came in the wave, and so I experienced the rent. I was kind of at the beginning of when rent started to get high, so I'm not one of those people that can be like, oh, I remember when rent was $3 a month, But the people that are from here, they hate on us transplants sometimes because we all came and drove up the rent prices.
I wanted to go with that. So you and I have both journeyed across the country in our own way to our own places. And, whenever I hear or having a conversation with someone and they're thinking of moving to a new city, I'm like, man, go do it. Like, go do it.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful experience. Because how long have you been in Denver now? Been here 7 years?
Yeah, just past 7 years. Absolutely.
What was that moment like? Because you went from Lafayette to Denver, correct? What was that? I guess I'm just randomly picking this to talk about. It's like I am curious. I don't know if I've really asked you. Like, I remember talking to you back then, but what was your mind like? Okay, you're like, you knew you wanted to go to Denver.
Yeah,
what was the push? Like, what was the thing? Like, man, I gotta go. I'm gonna go to Denver.
I remember the moment. So I had I think started coming out to Denver in like 2012. Well, I was actually in Boulder then. I was hanging out in Boulder, and I would come to Denver, and loved it. Everybody that comes to Colorado loves Colorado. And so I had been kind of kicking it around, and I wanted to leave Lafayette. I had been there about 8 years. And it was in January. We had, I think, what's that? Oh, you've lived out here. I don't know if you'll know the name of it. I think it's called a polar vortex. Have you heard of that?
What is it?
I don't know what it does, but basically it gets cold as hell. And I don't know what happens, but it sends cold air down. And so, do you remember Tom? Tom was with me in the house, and it was like everything shut down. It was that cold. You couldn't go outside for more than like 10 minutes or you were at risk for frostbite. You were supposed to stay home because if your car broke down, like you were in danger. It was that kind of cold. And it lasted a few days. Yeah, it was in Lafayette. And I remember we were sitting there and we were like, moving to Colorado, and we both did. We both just moved. We both moved to Colorado. Like it was in that moment.
That's similar to me when I was a senior year at Western and walking across the parking lot in the below zero snow. I had to light my old car had the iced over key thing. I couldn't open up the car. Stick my head out the window because the ice was so bad on my windshield. And I remember it just pelting me in the face, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm done.
Right.
I didn't know where out west it was going to be. It turned out to be Tucson right away, but I'm just like, yeah, this isn't cool, man. Like, that's funny. So you're both just like, yeah, we're going to Denver.
Yeah, it was just like that. And it's been great, man. Colorado's a great state. And I'm probably gonna make, like, if anybody local hears this, they're like, don't tell people that, slow down the movement. But a lot of people associate crazy snow and all that with Colorado, and I even had people from the Midwest being like, why are you moving out there? You don't like the cold weather. But it's a really mild climate here. It's beautiful weather for the most part. We get blizzards and we get snow, but it's pretty mild for the most part.
And it's gone pretty quickly, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. We get a lot of sun, and so the sun really melts it. There's not a lot of, because we're higher in the atmosphere, right? Like the sun isn't as filtered, and so it's really direct sun on the snow, and it just melts it quickly.
And then the nature. I mean, when I went out there a few years ago, I mean, man, Red Rocks, or Red Rock, your version of Red Rock. There's the Vegas Red Rock.
Right. Yeah. Which is actually, it's funny, like, that's my favorite memory of Vegas, probably. My favorite thing I've ever done in Vegas is the hike we did at Red Rocks Canyon or National Park. I don't know what it is, but that's my favorite. Yeah, that's my favorite thing I've ever done in Vegas.
That was such a crazy hike. But I remember doing it, pushing to the limit, and then getting to the destination we had gotten to, and it was so peaceful, so calm. Just made you really appreciative. I mean, nature really has so many lessons to teach us. So many lessons to teach us. Like you go into nature not even knowing you're going to learn something, and you learn something.
Well, that was an interesting hike for me, because I think that was the first time I had ever, that I can remember that I had ever, like firsthand seen or experienced an oasis. You know, I remember like reading about that, like in really early like books about geography. But we were in the desert, and I remember as we were hiking, hearing some water and like going and finding this little lush patch with like trees and brush and this flower. You know, I had never seen anything like that in the middle of the desert. That was just kind of beyond me to experience. It was rad.
Yeah, it was. And then when I went out to Colorado, we went to Red Rock on that special trail you showed me.
We shouldn't have done that.
I remember, dude, I'll never forget.
You should not follow me everywhere I go, son.
I remember you're like, hey, we're going to go this way. And I remember looking at the path and then where you were trying to go. And I'm like, are you sure about this? Like, are you sure? But then you get to the point in it where I was committed at some point and there was no going back. So we had to finish it out. But yeah, I shouldn't have done that, definitely.
We got like cactus probably. And we didn't get bit by rattlesnakes or anything. It was all right.
It was all right. I definitely would go to Golden, Colorado again.
Golden is amazing. Yeah, Golden is beautiful.
Especially the part where we're just walking around and you're like, hey, turn around. And I turn around and it's the Coors Light building. And it was honestly one of the most mind-blowing moments of my life, because zero idea that the Coors headquarters was there. And as soon as I turned, it immediately flashed to like college and all the Coors Light bottles I had ever seen.
Yeah. Well, that was just such like a weird day anyways, right? Because we take a train from Denver to Golden.
Yeah.
And then we're wandering around getting lost on like the golf course. And like, it was just like end up by the river. And like, there was like these dudes on these huge, I don't even know what they were, man. You know,
like hybrid, like double kayaks with them sitting on a chair.
And they were so serious. That's exactly what it looked like. And we snake around and like, the Coors factory. It was just a real, like, it was a bizarre day, man.
And we took the bus all the way back, and it took like 3 hours.
Yeah, and if you're familiar with Denver, we took the 15, or I don't even know if it's the 15 in Golden, but we took a bus from Golden all the way down Colfax, which turned into, it was a long ride. Nobody should be on Colfax for that long.
Well, I remember you told me too, you're like, hey man, this is going to be a learning experience because you're about to take a bus, public transit, through all parts of Denver, the good, the not so good. And it really was an interesting thing to witness, like to just see that, how diverse the world really is. You know, like you stay in your pocket of play. And that's why I think what gravitates me, especially like I've really enjoyed Los Angeles, is, I mean, each neighborhood you go to changes. Like it changes very quickly. And in some cases, languages and cultures and all these different things. And I don't know. I think it's dope to be exposed to all that.
Mm.
And we've both talked like maybe that's what. It's funny because I was talking with Smitty on the podcast yesterday, and we were talking about eventually wanting to get out of cities. But there are definitely a lot of things that do draw me to cities.
Are you like out there though in LA? Like, are you out?
Like out and about right now?
Yeah. Well, oh yeah. I forget. California's been a lot more shut down than
that, and I had my injury. So no,
right.
Pre-pandemic.
Previous, were you out?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you were shaking and grooving.
Moving and grooving, not like mainly in the acting scene, but not as much like going out to like clubs and stuff. I didn't really. I got days out in Vegas, but definitely out, and especially for my job too, man. Just driving around everywhere, and to me, it was a beautiful experience because I haven't traveled the world, but I felt I got the next best thing, which was to be going into different parts of town where I'm the minority. I'm the only English speaking person. I'm the whatever. To be absorbed in that and to find different restaurants and different. It just it's a big world, man. It's a really big world, and I haven't traveled the world, but I definitely see the appeal now, especially doing the type of work we've been doing this past year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like. What I like about Denver is that I'm not out there at all. Like I don't, especially like I don't drink anymore, so I don't really. I mean, I go out sometimes with my friends, but I'm definitely not out at like bars and clubs, and I stick to myself for the most part. But it's nice that really on any night I can go out and do something. You know what I mean? And that, I think, for me is the beauty. I don't necessarily utilize everything around me all the time, but I love being able to, any day you want, you can go to a museum, or you can probably see some live music, or, there's interesting little shops and just all kinds of cool local stuff, right? There's, you could spend a whole day kind of searching and find things you've never seen before and still only see, just a small part. And I definitely enjoy that about living in a city.
Piggybacking off of that and another conversation we had about, we were talking about being homebodies too. Because I'm to the point now where like, yeah, man, like I'm down to go do some things like for a short period of time, but that window hits me where I'm like, all right, time to split, like time to get back. Like those days of like, we're just gonna let loose and go wherever. Like I'm not saying I'm never gonna do that again in my life, but I don't seek that.
Well, I was unaware of how much energy sometimes I was spending being out. And I think that I used to see like my energy level as directly related to like being tired or not tired, right? And when I started understanding just being involved with things, like we're putting energy into that. So to go and be around people and to go and be at this place or to go and be at this restaurant, like, yes, it's nice to be around people. It's nice to eat some good food, but we're kind of sending out and absorbing energy in everything we do. And for some people that can be like really charging, and for me that can be kind of exhausting. So I'm a little bit cautious of what I put my energy into, and so I definitely like to spend a lot of time at home, chill with the plants, read. Like sometimes I feel like I'll kind of come into it because I'll just be like, I'll get home from work and I'll just be like sitting on the couch for like a minute, like looking forward. I'll be like, man, like, I don't know. I kind of like feel like if somebody saw this, they think I'm like crazy. Like if they look through the window, I'm just like a dude sitting on the couch staring straight ahead at the wall. But
you're Serpico, man. You're Serpico.
Serpico, that's a great film, man.
It's a great film, but what was dope about Serpico was I took from that was like his pad was so customized. It was so customized because there's a difference between getting a place and putting up the basics But then like doing what you've done and really blowing it out and really personalizing that. I know you got books and I believe you have a globe. I'm not trying to disclose everything I've seen in your apartment, but it's like, dude, it's a cultured spot. You've had a record player. You're the first person I really knew that had records. I remember back in Lafayette, man, I loved it, man, listening to all those records you had. And it was a different experience. It's like listening to music differently. It's like you can't read on a Kindle. You got to read a paper book. It's like, man, get rid of that digital music. We're going to play a record,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm totally like kind of just like a corny traditionalist about things. I like hard books. I think the records are cool. I've got a typewriter over there. I don't know if it works or not because I'm not even sure I can use it. But, I like to remember where we started, right? Not everything came from a screen. In fact, most of the things that I really enjoyed didn't come from a screen,
I know you've dove more into meditation this past year. Could you talk about maybe what that practice has done for you or meant for you or how you utilize it perhaps?
Yeah. So, I've experienced, I've experimented or practiced kind of informally with meditation for a long time, probably over 10 years easily, informally, in different phases, not necessarily like continuously by any means, but I had a friend that started they showed me some techniques, some simple ways to kind of or that they thought could kind of deepen my practice, and I started to apply those and practice those and find benefits from it and kind of grow from that. And I started kind of studying Buddhism and Buddhist practices of meditation and going to meditation center here to get some actual like practice in and a little bit of instruction with it, right? But all of that's kind of like the formal meditation, which is really what I thought meditation was that kind of ritual, like get down in the morning, get on the pad and light a candle or whatever you do, and have that moment, right? That's kind of what I always practice. And what I'm learning now is that kind of that practice that is continuous, right? Like when you're walking, when you're eating, when you're driving, when I find my mind drifting, taking a moment and bringing myself back to the present or back to the breath, or sometimes if I'm driving, a good place to put it is just on driving. Like I think of just driving, no external thoughts. And I'm just learning how beneficial that practice can be. Like it's great to do. I love the ritual practice of meditation just in itself, sitting on the floor and, kind of having that Zen as they say. But what I think is more useful is learning how to apply meditation into every moment that we can,
Yeah. And well, shoot, you talk about, I think it's Empower Now. He talks about if you're going to do the dishes, just do the dishes. Just do them. Feel the water. Feel it really is. I mean, man, like I talk to you about this all the time, and it's I don't know if I call it a downfall, or it can be for me, but social media. I just felt it, man. I felt that my attention span was terrible. My thoughts were constantly on checking posts and that, and I just finally deleted the apps off my phone for a few days. And it was like night and day. As soon as I did that, I was so cleansed, and I was able to like really focus in on stuff again. And I'd say all that to be like, man, like how many things do we do on autopilot where we're not paying attention at
everything. In fact, I think that like if we're not on full autopilot, most of the time we're just on like this little step down from it, right? Like it's still just a little bit. In my experience, most of us aren't thinking most of the time.
Yeah,
we're just kind of buzzing around like bugs to a light.
Just mindless.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I have to keep bringing bringing up Naval, but
Mm.
his form, like when he says about meditating, how and the chants and stuff are cool too, and there's different types and all that. But him saying like literally just sit there and do nothing, just do nothing, and whatever comes up comes up. And I really feel, and like he explained it as a bunch of things are going to come up and you're like wondering and questioning like why is this coming up, and then other things come in, but like eventually it all kind of fizzles down again. It's like your mind's way of like cleansing itself and rebooting, and it really makes you realize, man, like, is this how I think all the time? Like, am I just like in this neurotic state of I guess I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but another quote I saw was, the thing worse than the wrong decision is indecision. And it so hit me because I'm like, man, a lot of times indecision happens because we're just all over the place. But when you clear your mind and you wipe the table of the BS of a lot of it, the answers become pretty clear. Usually, not all the time, but so it's I mean, man, I can't even imagine if we would have been learning this, like even back in high school, but before that, how differently life's perspective may have been or will be.
Well, but that's what's cool is, shout out to Nathan Taylor, right? Like where we grew up, this was kind of foreign language. And I don't know exactly his role in it, but I know that he's brought like the breathing tree. And now that's a part of the town that it was completely absent of that when we were there. And people are learning about that, and it's becoming common language for children and families. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. So we may have caught on to it later, but we're very blessed and privileged that we caught on to it at all. They say that's a sign of great karma to even come in contact with these teachings. We are very blessed. Yeah. And anybody like Nate that's bringing this message to other people, I just think is beautiful. Because you're right. This is something that if we learned early on, man, we'd be like maybe solid practitioners of it by now, But I'm happy to be doing it now, nonetheless.
Absolutely. And and that's in Canton, Illinois, correct? The breathing tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely
I've never actually been there. I hope I got the name right and the information. I've never actually been there. I just know that it exists.
Now that is dope of him, man. Like that is dope. Like I don't personally know him, but I know of him, and I think that is amazing to go explore the world, and then brings it's like a Lupe Fiasco when he what song is it? Gosh dang it. I think it's I'm Beaming. He's like, you don't come back unless you learn something. Like when you're leaving a place to come back, and it's like going somewhere, learning something, and then bringing that back to a community that didn't have access to something like that,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to dog us out, right? I'm just saying, but like, they say that there's no real honor in leaving your home to become enlightened if you don't bring that back to your home, and so we went away and learned, but I think it's beautiful how he's brought that. He went away and learned these things and brought it back to his home, and that's a true act of virtue.
Even like Bill Cook, man, the Bill Cook medical,
absolutely,
perfect guy that hit pretty much as big as you can get.
How beautiful, right?
And he's like, hey, I'm going to give back, and creates jobs and
how beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's great. There's this book. My friend Julian, shout out to him, got me, called The Art of Noticing. And one of the exercises they give you to do in it, and I've actually tried this a couple times, go read whenever you see like statues or park benches, or they're all over when you really start to pay attention, especially in city, like even towns, they're everywhere. Those little those dedication plates. Go read those, and then go look it up on Google or wherever, and go learn about those people. It's interesting. Because usually those are people that were part of a community. And, I don't know if they make it big or they did well in life to some extent where they were able to give back to it. So that, it's something that I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that giving back is is everything, right? That's practicing love. That's practicing compassion, and I think anything good that we get in this life, it comes from a place of love, peace, and compassion. There is nothing else.
I don't know how far we want to go down this hole, but I think too, we'd have talks about, being a parent. If we were to ever be in those positions, and in this exact realm would be one of my motivators too, because I do feel, not that I'm in a position now to do it, but it's like, man, it's like having certain experiences and going through certain things and meeting certain people. And it's like, man, if I did have an offspring, being able to pass down some of this stuff to someone from the beginning, I mean, going to the Bhagavad Gita where they talk about people who were very enlightened in their past life and maybe not had hit that top plateau of enlightenment, their next life, they're immediately brought into a family where they're taught meditation, where they're taught a lot of spiritual practices and this type of
thing. And that sounds great, man. But my parents tried to teach me all kinds of stuff, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
That's a
good point. That's a good point.
So, I mean, it's a great thought, but like some kids just don't listen, man.
They want to go hang with their friends, man. They want to.
Right. They're like, hey, come here. I'm going to teach you about meditation. They're like, okay.
That's hilarious.
We'll ride my bike.
Yeah, well, maybe scrap that idea.
No, I mean, I think that's, and that's something that's kind of cool, right? Like some of these practices we're talking about are kind of like Eastern practices that are fairly new in this country, right? Like, especially being practiced in mainstream, like there's yoga all over the place. Like yoga, never mind. I shouldn't have brought up yoga. Anyways, like it's new stuff here. It's new to us, but there's people that are coming from Asia that they have lineages of Buddhism and meditation. Their family's been Buddhist for potentially like thousands of years, right? Hundreds of years. So, that's a trip to think about too, is that, in our culture, this is new information, but this is old news to a lot of the world, man.
You've actually humbled me quite a bit, but to say what you said, because I just realized, like, oh yeah, man, meditation, yeah. I'm like, go across the ocean, people like, dude, we've been on this shit for thousands of years, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I've been doing this shit since I was like 6.
Right.
That is actually really humbling now that I think about it. It's very humbling.
Well, and I think that a lot of people meditate. It's getting a little bit better, but a lot of the word meditation can kind of turn people off, right? Because whatever connotation they built to it, like some of our parents' generation, like they first heard about it with like George Harrison when they, when they came back from India, and like it became a little pop culture-y, and it was a little bit seen as woo-woo and new age, right? And so a lot of people have these strange connotations around words like meditation and karma, and but we have principles that we discuss them nonetheless. Prayer for a lot of people is, I don't really distinguish it from meditation, but we have kind of a different language to express that some of us are more comfortable with.
And I'm glad you said that, because so Eric and I started rewatching Jesus of Nazareth.
Great. You're doing it somewhere to watch that, man. And that was,
dude.
When I watched that last time, I like went into work at this work meeting, and I was like, I forget what they were talking about, but I was like, yo, I just watched Jesus of Nazareth this weekend. And he started busting out the Pharisees and saying, you're honoring the letter of the law, but not the spirit. Like I went on this rant that I was like inspired by watching Jesus of Nazareth. It was funny, man.
Well, and I bring Jesus up, and as I've reread the Gospels this year, I have a whole new perspective of Jesus in the Gospels and reading the Bible than I did. I think I've actually proved your point. Back to when I was younger, and like all with good purpose, like going into church right away. But again, when you're a kid and people are telling you this, and this, you're like, yeah, whatever. It's like
Right.
But now to come back to it now after reading other things and meeting a lot of different people from all over the world, it's like, okay, what Jesus is saying here in the Gospels, a lot of this is similar to the Bhagavad Gita. A lot of this is they're all saying the same thing. A lot of it, I'm not stepping on anyone's beliefs. But my point is, a lot of us are all really trying to say the same thing. Yes, it may be in different languages or it may be in different stories, but at the end of the day, a lot of it ties back into how you can be a really good person and live your life and treat others and really perceive this existence in a certain way. I mean, that's at least how I've interpreted it.
Yeah, I a lot of times when I hear people talking about religious views, especially, right, but they use the word truth. I think, yeah, I mean, and I think that's just it creates a little bit of discord, right, because it's subjective. I think it really, like, I just find myself not really getting caught up so much on truth, right? Like what's true or what's not true isn't really a concern to me. It really goes back to that piece of, like, is this promoting love, peace, and compassion? And if it's doing those things, I'm really not worried about where it's coming from, right? And yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you that, it's great you read the Gospels, because that's like, it's arguably the most important part of the Bible, right? But most people that have been practicing Christians their whole life have never actually read the Gospels. Like, I remember when you were doing it, like, you went through each book and read it, and there's good stuff in there, man.
Dude, great stuff.
Like,
he was phenomenal, dude. Like, that's the thing. I'm like, dude, Jesus is like the man. Like, especially like watching the Jesus of Nazareth and going to the text, and now, like, and I think I'm just going to make a habit of just continuously going back and forth between those two, because the more I read it, the more I understand what they're portraying in the movie. And then the part where he's really starting to come out and reveal himself to people, and he's in his hometown of Nazareth, and they're basically booing him off the stage, and he's like, only in a prophet's hometown is he not appreciated. And I'm like, dude, let that sink in. Like, he's talking about haters. He's talking about people you grew up with, and they see something like, oh man, screw you, man. It's like, there's just so much just good stuff. And my favorite part probably about Jesus, one of them at least, is when he goes to eat at Matthew's, the tax collector's house, and there's prostitutes and there's whatever, and people are like, how can you dare go there? He's like, dude, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Dude, I didn't come here for the healthy. I came here for the sick. And I'm just like, dude, take that, what he just said, and apply that to the real world right now. In a world where now more than ever, arguably, just the most divisive over every single issue there can possibly be. It's like, you're either this or you're that. And if you're that, we're going to do this. And if you're on this, we're going to do that. It's like, man, everyone just needs to fucking chill.
Yeah. Man, you told me probably, I don't know how long, 9 months. It was like back in like February or March, man. You were like, stop watching the news. And I stopped watching the news, and I don't go to news sites anymore. Every once in a while I'll look up like a specific article, but I'm kind of out of touch with how divisive things are. Man, I followed that advice and I have not gone back to it. And it's funny because I hear about the divisiveness all the time, and I know it's there, but it's not really a part of my world. And what I learned from that is how unnecessary it all is, right? Y'all are arguing over things that I'm just staying out of, and none of it is affecting me. So what are you arguing about? It's just become arguing for the sake of arguing, and just it's sad, man. It's just sad. I forget that that's going on. Like I said, I live in my own little world. So
beautiful. I need to retake my own advice.
Yeah, man. You're back on the news?
No, I've gotten better. There was a stretch where I got into it, but then you realize, man, it's entertainment, and it's to sell. Moa said it on this podcast. He goes, dude, it's all based off advertising. Like,
right.
Fear and anger cause people to constantly check the news. I think Gandhi said he gave up reading the newspaper for 3 years. Now, look, if a meteor is going to hit Los Angeles in 12 hours, I want to know that.
Why?
Well, so I can bail.
I think you'd be cooked, man. I don't know if you're gonna get anywhere.
Maybe that wasn't the best example. But like certain things you do want to keep informed, but then, dude, it gets to a point where they have a new story every day, man. They have a new story that's going to fire everyone up. And you're exact. I just got done talking about this next door with a couple of friends, Eric and Ford. I'm just like, a lot of people, I think, don't even know what they truly believe. They're believing, and Naval said this. He's like, their opinions are formed on other people's opinions. They watch all these opinions and they form their opinion on the opinions, but they actually don't do the homework and the research and actually look at the issues and actually dig down and ask themselves, how do I really feel about this? So like, no, I'm this political party or I'm that political party, and this political person said that. You see what I'm saying? It's like we're literally creating chaos out of nothing.
Dude, I don't think anybody takes a moment, like takes the time to actually do thoughtful research. Like nobody gets triggered, goes off on this mission to do some thoughtful research, and then come back and post a smart ass comment. Like nobody's doing that. Nobody has ever done that in the history of the internet. Has paused, gone to do their Sorry, this is a podcast. Fuck it. Gone to do their fucking research. And then come back to say the little comment. No, man, you got to say that in the moment. You got to say that when you don't even know what you're talking about, but you're going to talk. That's when you comment, man. You don't have time to think or do research.
Dude, you reminded me of something you told me in a conversation we had was, and dude, I've actually, so you took my advice about the news. I've taken your advice on this. There are certain topics and issues that it doesn't matter what you present to this person or what they present to me. Neither of us are probably changing our minds on it. And that's cool. And that's cool. It's not like not everything should be you having to talk someone into. Now, look, when I say all this, I want everyone listening, watching to understand, yes, there are certain issues out in the world that are messed up that need to be addressed. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about just other minute things that people flip out about. And look, if someone has a certain political view on this and they have they grew up a certain way, this is why they believe that. Who are you to like say, hey man, no, that's wrong. You can't believe that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I've learned to let go with things like, look, it's not even like, look, my relationship, I don't want my relationship with people to be based upon like our opinions of things. Like, it's just not, I will communicate with people. I want it to be my energy with them, my soul with them, my relationship. And that's what I don't like about social media too. And it's very easy to get very judgmental very quickly with people that you know in person have had great experiences with, but maybe they're posting some political stuff or whatever it is. I mean, even nutritional advice that, no, I don't really agree with that. Now, it's one thing to be able to say that, oh, I don't agree, but that's cool. But after a while, it just, it's a mental thing, and it's just, I just feel everyone's just verbal, like vomiting everything in everyone's face, and it's crazy.
Yeah, man. A lot of us have this this kind of compulsion or this impulse, like that if there's something we disagree with or something that offends us, that we have to be outraged. And I don't think that that's new by any means. I think that that's been happening. It's been happening forever. If you go back to plays, right? Controversial plays, long before social media, long before television, people were outraged about the content in plays. It's something we like to do that I don't get, right? Because now that we have social media, we get to post that outrage. We get to make our outrage known. It's not just what we complain about around the dinner table. That's where the outrage used to be, in the church group or, at the school board meeting or, but now it's just everybody goes home and gets on the computer with their outrage, and then you'll put it over here and put it over here, and you'll share it with each other so you can all be outraged together. And it's like, yo, just be offended and shut up. Who cares? I get offended sometimes, but what does that matter? So.
Well, I'll actually tie it into something you were talking at the beginning of the podcast about that animal instinct for more. I've heard theories on why we're so neurotic and crazy about things now. Is because we don't have to worry about hunting for food anymore. You don't have to worry about a lion jumping out of the well, not at least in the States. Well, it depends if you're in the mountains. There's mountain lions, but you know what I mean. Like it's like we have a lot of comforts now that we're freed up to just let our minds wander to whatever. And I think a lot of people gravitate, and it's addicting to these emotional urges that social media and controversial topics create. And so it's not a healthy place to be, dude.
What do you say to somebody who tells you like, yo, Sam, I feel like I get mad every time I get on Facebook, right? Like, so they're telling you that they just, every time they get on Facebook, they're getting upset by it. What's your response to that? How do you work through that?
Get off Facebook. Don't get on it.
Get off Facebook.
The stove's hot. Why is it so hot? Don't touch it. But I do the same thing. I'm aware of it. Or I guess my advice would be what are you getting on Facebook for? Are you a business owner and you need to promote something so it's necessary? Or are you just on there to just pass time and you're bored? I would then say just ditch it if that's the case. Or if you are going to use it to connect with people, don't look at the feeds. I've done this before. I've like if I do get on to do a post or something, I'll block out the feed. But if I go, you know what, I want to see what Ty's up to. Let me go check out what he's doing. I'll consciously go to your page. I won't just randomly wait and just search my feed mindlessly, because then you get dude, that just you get sucked in.
I'd have to say the same. Like I'm learning to utilize it. That if I'm curious, what somebody's been up to, they cross my mind. Then I try to go to their page directly, because it's really easy for me to get lost in scrolling. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like I've heard it before, but a lot of it's just ads, right? Like a lot of the posts aren't even from our friends. They're just ads. And yeah, it's best to stay away. I'd agree.
And actually, you've motivated me to even go further, because even with this podcast, if it wasn't for doing the podcast, I'd be off at this point. But now it's like, all right, well, I'm doing I should post when it's out and stuff like that. But even then now I'm just finding, I think Joe Rogan calls it post and ghost. Like post, dip off. But, like Facebook has a nice feature with Messenger. I guess it's called Meta now or whatever it's called. Facebook changed.
I don't even know what that would. I've heard that, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So it's like, look, if you want to shoot someone a quick message you haven't talked to in a while, cool. That's cool. But I definitely feel it's not used what it used to be used for. Like even 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Yeah, it was cool when someone would shoot me a Facebook message and like, dude, I'm going to be in Vegas, man. You around? Like it was a networking tool. But now it's just a pure, especially over the past few years, and now it's just pure mind warp of just crap. So I don't know, man. It just really makes me appreciate these practices as we've been talking about, and to remind myself. And again, sometimes I'll even think, and my injury taught me this, and then also sometimes Wayne Dyer talks about this. He says, have the near-death experience without the near-death experience. He's like, when you have a near-death experience, you like all these things happen. Like, oh my God, you see what's important. You see what you've wasted your time on. He's like, dude, you can get there without having to almost die. He's like, just have that experience. Go there. Like, think about it. Like, what would happen? Like, I have those thoughts of like, I don't know what death's going to be like. I have an idea. I have some guesses, but I can be way off. None of us know.
Yeah. There's something kind of interesting you can do. I would only suggest doing this if you're I don't know, fairly stable with the concept of death, but you can get on Google and you can find out like an average of minutes in a lifetime, and then you can start to do some math with your own life. And it's a trip to do that, man. It's a trip to kind of calculate how many minutes do I have left?
Yep.
How many minutes would I have left if I lived to this age? How about this age? How many minutes have I already, spent? It definitely puts some things in perspective and really starts to it's kind of weird to do the math with minutes on your life. And like I said, I wouldn't recommend doing that if you tend to go into dread, but it can also be kind of enlightening and uplifting to get real with those numbers. It's kind of interesting.
Well, I got a couple things to say off that. It's first of all, I got to interject. This is I couldn't have asked for more. Like what I love how we'll just go these directions, but there's a stoicism board where I think you fill it out by the weeks. I don't know if I think it's weeks. And they give it to you if you're living till 80. And they show you what it looks like when you start shading in the amount of weeks. If you lived it might be months. I don't know. It might be months. Maybe they do it by months. So it's really significant when you see it. And I'll go to Anthony DeMello. When he says, the moment you realize death, that's when you start living. And he tells the story of 2 stories, I'll say real quick, about the guy who falls off the cliff and holds on to it's like a flower branch, right? Something. And in that moment, he's like, I never realized how good the flower smelled or how good the strawberry tasted before I don't know if he ends up plunging to his death, but it's like,
those stories are always so crazy.
He appreciated it. And then the other one he talks about, I believe it was an AIDS patient who was told, you got 6 months to live. And the guy fully believed it. And he looked at Anthony DeMello or whoever told Anthony the story and said, the doctor was right. I'm at the end. It's been 6 months, but he's like, this has been the best 6 months of my life. I've been the most happiest. And I didn't realize how much time I was just wasting in other stuff. Like, it's really that to me. I know you're right. It's like, yeah, death, I feel such a taboo thing to talk about, but at the same time, it's everywhere and it's going to happen to all of us. And to me, that's what lights my ass on fire. To be like, yo, man, you're going to be checked out no matter what, whether you like it or not. So how are you going to spend your time? How do you want to spend your time?
And it's finding that harmony, right? Because we can't just fly around like the mayfly. I think that's that little insect that lives for one day. I remember this cartoon when I was a kid about this mayfly that was like flying around trying to get everything done in one day because they die. And, we don't want to run around like that. Like, oh, I don't have enough time because then we lose that present. We're not enjoying anything. But we also want to fall out of that trap of wasting time, that trap of doing things that don't bring us pleasure and that don't help us grow. I think it was you that introduced me to the book Essentialism, right? Like learning how to do what you need to do with your time and how to cut out some of the extras, because it's not about trying to pack more things in with the time you have. It's simply about not wasting it.
Yeah. And also having that awareness to recognize, and I know I've gotten better at this, like recognizing and knowing yourself. Like, for example, we were talking about, we don't go out that much anymore. It's like, I know that again, that's not to say that spontaneity doesn't exist, but overall, if someone tells me like, hey, we're going to go out to the bars and we're going to hop here and go there, it's like, no, I know for a fact I'm not going to enjoy that. I know what I enjoy and I know what I want to spend my time doing, and I'm going to go do that. And that's just, I think, having awareness of oneself and having that ability to, I think too, one of the greatest things people can learn. I haven't read the book, but I've done enough in my own life. I think the power of no, the power of saying no to things. Because I know back in the day, man, I used to say yes to everything. And there's good and bad with that. It exposes
totally, man.
Stuff. But you get to a point in your life where like, all right, it's not necessary for me to go do that. You can tell that person no and say it with confidence and with a smile and have fun. Like, or best of luck with whatever you're doing. I can't commit to that. You know?
Oh yeah, man. Isn't it like, yeah, it's a trip. Like we worry so much sometimes. Like if somebody asks like, hey, can you help me move? Like, I get all weird about just telling them like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But we should feel free to do that. We are the
Yeah.
keepers of our time. We are who we're accountable for our own time and the way we spend it. And I think that we should help people. I think we should do things that would bring other people joy. But I think we have to regulate that and do the things that make us happy at the end of the day.
It's a two-way street, right? Like you got to be
Yeah.
able to dish it out, but you also have to be able to take it and understand like, hey, people may tell you no too, and you got to totally respect it and be cool. Cause you're right. Time is the most valuable resource. That's all we got. I mean, I think it's Marcus Aurelius. I feel like this is the Kanye West Drink Champs podcast where they did the name drop counter. There's a book drop counter for this podcast. He's naming all these books. But Marcus Aurelius in meditation says, he goes, I mean, take the most wealthiest person and take you. You guys have the same exact thing, which is the present moment. None of you has more or less of the present moment than the other. We both have the same present moment. So, of course, some people have more resources and money and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, someone with the richest amount of resources and the most wealth would give every single bit of it away at the end of the line just to get more time. So that's where I'm, and we start doing these. I was talking with Smitty yesterday. Like we were talking, he just turned 37. I'm going to turn 35 in March. And I'm like, I remember back when I was 20. And yeah, a lot has happened in 15 years, a lot. But there's 15 years and I go, the next 15, I'm going to be 50. And the next 15 is going to go faster because time goes faster the older you get.
Right.
So it just, that perspective alone is like giving me like, okay, like, man, I know I got to take care of myself. I got to, survive. But at the same time, I want rich experiences. I want rich relationships. I want, if there is certain art I want to create that. And really trying, I'm in that space right now of really trying to, I always call it panning for gold, like getting rid of the bullshit and just keeping the gold. Like what in my life do I not need? What do I not really want, but I'm still doing because I think I have to be doing it? No, get rid of that. Just get down to what it is you want to do and architect your life from that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I like pictured you panning for gold for a second when you said that and got sidetracked. I think that like me looking for that gold, man, I'm learning that it's possible every single day to create a space for one moment, right? For one moment where you can be present. Some days that might only be like a second or a few seconds. Some days it may be really, really hard. Some days I can get, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. There's been times where I've had, an hour or more continuous, of kind of just that full presence. Most of the time though, it's just a moment. And I'm learning how important that moment is because a lot can happen in a day that can really start to spin me off in other directions, right? But learning how to create that moment in the day where I bring things back to my breath or bring things back to like a spot on the floor or bring things back to the way it feels that I'm sitting down in this chair, right? Or that the tea mug feels on my hands, like finding that kind of that thing to focus on and bring me down. It's crazy how it can take a whole day of kind of disarray and just, it's gone for a moment. And then when you come back, it's a little bit lighter. It still might be there, but it's a little bit lighter. It's a beautiful thing, man. And it's something we can all do. It's not, there's no secrets to this. That's what I love talking to you about is all this stuff we're talking about. It just came from books, man. Like some of these books are like $8 books. It just came from books and like
$8 on Amazon. $8.
Yeah, man.
awareness.
Yeah, like, and it's these simple things that have absolutely transformed my life, and continue to do it. It's just remind myself and bring myself back to it, because it's tricky to not get lost in the world and to get lost in the past, get lost in the future. It's a constant thing for me.
Well, they teach us this in acting school, and then also you look at who are some of the most conscious, aware, present human beings. You know who they are? They're children. Children are, whatever they're doing, it's the best thing in the world. You know what I mean? They're playing with that block or that choo-choo train or that whatever, bubbles, anything. But we lose that the older we get, and the more we get conditioned, and the more we're like, oh man, now I got to quote unquote be in the real world and do adult things. But it's like, no, that we have access to these things at any given time. And it's like Peter Pan too, man. It's like the Robin Williams version where he was Pan, he becomes an adult, he forgets about it, but then Tinkerbell and all them recruit him back to Never Never Land, and he has to remember. And then when he remembers, that's when the magic comes back.
Yeah.
Man, like it's like, man, I used to have so much fun playing in the backyard. Like, we used to do ride bikes all over camp. I mean, we freaking loved riding bikes. That our summer was dedicated to riding bikes all around town and going to the ice or Shake Shack or Dairy Dream or wherever.
That's all we did.
All we did, dude.
Yeah, when you were saying that, it reminded me of those guys on the river in Golden, man. They were grown men, but they were living like children in that moment in the most beautiful way, man. Just running down and like getting their inner tube and running up the river and riding it down again. It was beautiful to see, man. Pure joy,
man. Well, we've been going. We're well past the hour mark, man. We could be talking for 3-4 hours, but I know we got to wrap. Thank you for doing this, man. This has been a treat.
Oh man, I'm a fan of this. So this is like what they used to say. What's that old when Johnny would bring someone down to sit on the couch, Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
That's how I feel now, man. Like I'm. It's an honor and a privilege, man, and I love talking to you. So any opportunity to do that, I'm there, man.
Yeah, man. No, and I really appreciate your support, because you do check out all the podcasts, and you inspire me to keep going with it. And like I told you, man, this is one of those things where like I'm not trying to quote unquote be a podcaster. I just want to make podcasts, if that makes sense. Like it's just I'm just enjoying these connections, especially with people. And I'm really, not that I won't talk to people I don't know as well or don't know at all, because I would, but I'm finding so much more value of just talking to the people I came up with, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so, and then capturing this, putting it on the internet, and maybe we listen to it and get something out of it, or maybe someone random listens to it and goes, oh yeah, okay. It's like, I can dig
I think you're just doing something really cool, man. You've had some really great people on here. And really just diverse people and diverse conversations. And so I hope you're enjoying it, because I'm certainly enjoying listening to it, man. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. And I just want to say, dude, you've been an inspiration to me, man. Like your journey and, all you've been through, and this, the state you're in right now of just positivity, peace, growth, enlightenment, a zest for life, dude. It's a really inspiring thing, and you inspire me a lot, man. And I think of you in a lot of times we've had often, because it's reminders, like, not to go too much down memory lane with you, but it's hard not to, having as many as we do. And it's like, there's so many moments I've had with you, and some very pivotal ones that I'm like, I really have to pause when I'm in a situation and go, this is what Ty and I were talking about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. This is the thing. I told you I had one of those moments recently where I literally stopped. I looked around and I said, this is it. This is there's nothing beyond this. So enjoy this, be present with it. And I never used to think that way, man. I was very trapped in my own head, my own ego, not in a malicious way, but just was. And really, when you start getting rid of ego and you start caring what other people really think and not caring about sharing your shit with the world, life
Mm-hmm.
really does become that much more enriching and tasteful, and everyone has access to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, each time I remember to just greet those beautiful moments and let go of them, right? Because there's a tendency to try to want to recreate them or to hold on to them. But just learning to like you said, like this is one of those moments. This is one of those moments to be cherished, and taking a moment, pausing, and then just moving out of it, man. What better things are there in life than that?
Absolutely, man. And as you know, I always save the last word for the guest. Is there anything you want to leave us with? It can be absolutely anything. Books you've been reading, things you've been pondering, experiences. What can you leave us with?
Yeah, I just I think that people right now are at a place of rebuilding. We've all kind of had unique circumstances throughout the last year, however long since the epidemic started. And a lot of people are growing and changing things around in their life. And I just think we should grab onto this moment and run with that, because sometimes it's really hard to get those catalysts that create change. Sometimes it's really hard to find that moment that kind of sparks inspiration. And a lot of people around me seem to kind of have that right now. And so I would just say run with that and enjoy life. Tell your friends and family you love them, man. Just be kind.
That's beautiful, man. Well, on that note, my friend, thanks for
Man,
doing this. And
yeah, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for having me on.
I love you too, man. Much blessings and gratitude. And our times aren't done, man. I foresee, I don't want to set expectations, but you're one of those people, man. Like, it's fun. I'm grateful to have these people such as you in my life. Like, we may not physically see each other for a while, but when we do, it's like we just picked up where we left off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm very grateful to have people on this journey that I can check in with and have these really deep, open conversations about anything. And it just makes it fun. We're all traveling through this, and I'm giving myself the last one.
No, I love it, man. I love it.
Oh shit, yeah. But it's like, yeah, man, like we're all traveling, and then we have these moments where we meet. Oh, hi there, friend. Hi there, friend. You exchange and like, I'm off on my journey again. I'm off on my journey. Hope to see you there. Maybe it's in this lifetime. Maybe it's in the next. I don't know. That's just dope, dude. Oh, I do have to say, while you're on here, the book of the episode, out of all the spiritual books we thought, I picked Thinking Physics.
Oh yeah, man. You haven't featured that yet, huh?
No, it's a tribute to Naval, and for just one of those. It's different, man. You're one of those people too. You inspired me to get this. Naval told me about it, but not me. I listened to him and he said it. But you like, yo, I got that book. And I'm like, really? You're like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm like, I'm gonna get that. So, doing physics problems that I have no business doing, nor do I understand, but it's exposing me and working my brain in a way I normally wouldn't be doing it. So, but
Yeah,
having the
very
relationship with someone like you, like having that tennis match, like I said, like, so.
Yo, I will say real quick, it's pretty funny on that book because you opened it up, right? You get one right. You go to the next one, you're like, got that one too. Get the third one. It's a little bit tricky, but you might have got it. By the time you got like the fourth, you're like, huh? And it changes, it levels up quick on you.
Oh, dude, it makes me really feel stupid.
I don't think a stupid person would buy a physics book and try to start learning. Seems pretty wise to me.
I got to finish this one that you gifted me with, the 7 brief lessons on.
Oh, that's even, dude. Yeah. That's a really cool book, but brief doesn't mean easy to understand.
Yeah, that is for sure, man. Well, on that note, my friend, we will talk soon. I'm going to end the recording.
All right, man.
And, thanks again for doing this, man. I really had a good time talking to you.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right, dude. Peace.
Peace.